United States. Good morning. Welcome to Weather Center. I'm Rick Griffin. Evacuation orders are outstanding as
but the axis itself has a further and almost imperceptible motion. It wobbles every 26,000 years. As a result, the position of the stars in the night sky changes through time. Virginia Trimble had to make sure she took this movement into account.
We realized very quickly that there weren't many bright stars that pass over those southern shafts. The most conspicuous ones at about the right time were Delta Epsilon and Zeta Orionis, the three stars of Orion's belt.
As the years were worked back to the time of the pyramids, the angle of the southern shaft of the King's Chamber was found to be pointing exactly at Orion's belt. So what was so special about Orion's belt? According to the pyramid texts, Osiris was believed to dwell in the stars, and more particularly in the constellation of Orion. The full implications of the discovery were finally realized 20 years later, when Robert Bauval decided to take a closer look at the precise pattern formed by the stars in Orion's belt.
I came along in the 1980s, and I discovered that the pattern of these three stars, Orion's belt, which are three bright stars in a row, and one of them, the top one, is slightly offset to the east. Two bright stars, a dimmer one at the top, and slightly offset to the east. And amazingly, you have exactly the same scheme here at Giza. And the penny dropped. There was clearly a correlation between those monuments that kings built in order to link up with this region of the sky. And it became known as the Orion correlation theory.
Armed with his theory, Bauval was now in a position to decipher the mysterious rituals in the pyramid texts.
The shaft had astral functions. They were ritualistically used, probably in a ceremony that meant the departure of the soul of the king into his destiny in the sky among these stars and among the gods. So we have here probably taking place what is crudely termed the resurrection or rebirth ritual.
To know who you really are, to know where you're really from, you need to know the real story of our species. Explore the amazing scientific research that can actually trace part of your DNA back to the single woman from whom we all descend. The real Eve. Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific. Only on the Discovery Channel. Brought to you by Toyota. Get the feeling.
What good is beauty if it's only skin deep? So it's sleeker, faster, roomier, better. You're going to want one. See your local Toyota dealer.
Mike, let's take a look at those reports next Thursday. And Tom, Susan, set up a meeting on Monday. Any other thoughts?
You know, sir, instead of saving money by having only one office pen, we could just go to Staples.
Yeah, with Staples 365 savings, they compare prices and back it up with a 110% price match guarantee.
That's sharp thinking.
Hey, client's here. We, need the pen.
Now get Staples 365 savings delivered. Just call 1-800-STAPLES or visit staples.com today.
You're watching Mysteries of the Pyramids. Up next, Women Pharaohs as the Scorpion King Unveiled continues on the Discovery Channel.
I love you.
I have a lost tooth.
Yeah, I would like to order a small pizza, please.
I felt a baby move. I met someone else.
I think I'm gonna quit.
You're the only person I've told.
It's benign.
They won.
I just started to miss you.
I would like to marry your daughter.
All words are created equal. The power to use them is our right as humans.
I'm frightened.
I need your advice.
But do we really have freedom of speech when some words cost more than others just because it's a certain time of day? Or because they have to travel farther? It's wrong, and it's about to be over. Introducing The Neighborhood, a new nationwide local phone company. Finally, one place where all words are equal, whether you're speaking to someone next door or across the country.
He makes me laugh.
I forgot my lunch.
I got a raise, Ma.
It's time to take back a freedom we never should have been without. The Neighborhood. All words are equal again.
You know, most men get pretty shook up about losing their hair. But today, many of them are learning about Bosley Medical. They use your own living hair to fill in the thin spots. Just look at that. It really works. You can treat it like real hair because it is real hair. Your own naturally growing hair. So you don't have to worry about it.
Bosley Medical is the world's most experienced hair restoration practice. For over 25 years, they have performed more than 130,000 procedures using the innovative micrografting techniques pioneered by founder Dr. L. Lee Bosley.
Each surgeon at Bosley Medical is board certified and individually trained by me.
So if you want to have your own naturally growing hair back, call this number for more information. We'll send you this free video and in-depth guidebook that gives you the real facts about hair restoration. There's no cost and absolutely no obligation. So do it for yourself. Call now and get the real results you've been looking for.
It's your real hair.
You can't do better than real.
The Discovery Channel captured millions of viewers with the first wave of Blue Planet. The Wall Street Journal called it ravishing, hypnotic. The New York Times said Blue Planet was breathtaking, miraculous. Don't miss all new dramas, all new discoveries, all new wonders. Blue Planet, the epic continues. Sunday, May 5th, beginning at 7 Eastern and Pacific, only on the Discovery Channel.
In the new movie, The Scorpion King, I play a sorceress named Cassandra, who's forced to serve the wicked ruler Memnon with her powers of prophecy.
To ignore this would bring great misfortune.
The names Cassandra and Memnon come to us from ancient legend, but the name of the movie and its hero, the Scorpion King, was inspired by a pair of early Egyptian pharaohs who left very different legacies.
When an Akkadian assassin, played by The Rock, fails once to destroy the warlord Memnon, Memnon strikes back with poison.
And when you find the Akkadian, give him this from me.
Although the movie The Scorpion King is pure fantasy, a century ago, at the site of the ancient city of Hierakonpolis, excavators found a limestone mace head with an image of a pharaoh named Scorpion. According to Dr. David Silverman of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology, King Scorpion lived up to the reputation of his venomous namesake.
We think Scorpion was a conqueror based on the scenes on his ceremonial mace head. Just above the representation of the king, there's a row of dead birds dangling from staffs, and these were associated with people several hundred miles north in the Nile Delta. The whole scene may suggest that King Scorpion had won a battle there, and this may be one of the early battles that led to the unification of Egypt under one king.
So it appears the Scorpion King had a taste for conquest. But recent digs in the royal cemetery at Abydos have unearthed the tomb of another, earlier pharaoh, also named Scorpion. And he preferred the pen to the sword.
In the tomb of King Scorpion I, recent excavators discovered hundreds of labels bearing images and signs that eventually turn up in later Egyptian hieroglyphs. And we now think that these images were the earliest form of written language.
The Scorpion Kings ruled at the dawn of Egyptian civilization, centuries before the age of the pyramids, so much of their story remains a mystery. We'll never know their strength as swordsmen. Stay tuned later for evidence that the warrior women of ancient legend may have really existed. And don't miss The Scorpion King in theaters Friday. Now back to Mysteries of the Pyramids.
The idea of the pyramid as a resurrection device may shed light on the function of the Mayan pyramid at Palenque. This also has a burial chamber at the bottom of the pyramid. Inside, archaeologists found the remains of a skeleton with a jade mask. Jade was a symbol of immortality for Mayans. And the narrow tunnel leading from the tomb to the temple above recalls the shafts in the Great Pyramid. Perhaps it served a similar function.
We know from the pyramids of the sun and of the moon in Mexico that they refer to these pyramids as the place where the gods were born. And indeed, the whole idea was the making of a king in his moment of death into a god. So the notion is there, and it is not surprising.
As a magical device for sending kings to eternal life, pyramids must have seemed extraordinary to the ancients. For centuries, the pyramids have been featured in local Arab legends. In recent years, historians have begun to delve into this folklore. They have found many references alluding to hidden chambers underneath the pyramids.
There were local traditions that you can go in the pyramid and get lost there for days and months. And there are underground passageways that connect to an actual labyrinthine structure, in the center of which there is some source of knowledge or hidden knowledge.
The only hint of a labyrinth is a tunnel leading 90 feet down from the entrance to the Great Pyramid. But it stops abruptly. Archaeologists have dismissed the significance of this tunnel. They argue that the builders changed their minds and built a tunnel upwards into the heart of the pyramid instead. But the possibility of hidden tunnels has been revived in recent times, following a sensational discovery at another pyramid site. In the 1970s, outside Xi'an in western China, there was great excitement when an underground vault containing a vast army of soldiers was unearthed. The warriors were in fact statues made of terracotta and buried there by the first emperor of China to protect him on his journey into the afterlife. They were buried a short distance away from the pyramid containing the emperor's tomb. It was the first time that an underground chamber had been found in the shadow of a pyramid. What is remarkable is that an ancient historian named Sima Chen, born 60 years after the death of the emperor, described such an army of soldiers. And Sima Chen went further. He told of a magical world under the pyramid where the emperor's body was laid to rest. The Chinese have yet to excavate the pyramid. They say they are waiting until the technology is ready to preserve the tomb. But according to historians of Chinese religion, there could be more than one reason for their reluctance.
There is a fear that if they actually go and dig up that tomb, they go and disturb the first emperor,
his spirit, which has wandered this world for many centuries, will really come out. In there is something very dark and evil, something that terrified them, but still frightens them. They're not going to disturb him, because their belief is the same about ancestors. Give the old devil half a chance, he'll come up and get you.
For many years, Sima Qian's account of the world under the emperor's pyramid was dismissed as fantasy. But historians who've studied the ancient Chinese source say that view has to change.
Our skepticism of the accounts of the luxury and the lavishness of the first emperor's entombment had to be completely rethought. If that army could be there, then everything else that was contained in the early texts might just as well be true too.
We can only guess at the form and splendor of the first emperor's underground mausoleum. But if the source is right, there would have been a replica of his whole kingdom, with palaces, mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, and oceans that were filled with mercury.
The shimmering surface of the mercury would seem as if the water was flowing through these waterways and lakes and into the ocean. This whole scene would have been illuminated by lamps which were fed with great tanks of whale oil designed to keep them burning forever. And by those flickering flames, one could make out in the ceiling of the tomb constellations laid out in pearls and gems so that they would glitter as stars on the ceiling of the tomb.
The prospect of such fabulous discoveries under the Chinese emperor's pyramid has excited those pondering what might lie under the Giza pyramids. Could there be something in the old folk tales after all? The legends have recently been given a bizarre and unexpected boost by a chain of events triggered over 60 years ago here in Virginia Beach on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Virginia Beach is the headquarters of a research institute promoting the teachings of Edgar Cayce, a Christian psychic who lived between 1877 and 1945. Cayce could fall into a hypnotic trance at will. His secretary would then ask him questions sent by the public about health, life, and death. Cayce would answer with insights and prophecies, which were then faithfully recorded. In 1932, Cayce was asked a question about the meaning of the pyramids of Egypt. He replied that under the Giza Plateau was a chamber he called the Hall of Records. This Hall of Records, he claimed, was a storehouse for ancient knowledge and wisdom deposited by the designers of the pyramids. Few people outside Cayce's followers took any notice of this prophecy until recently. What's now drawing outsiders to Cayce is a detail he mentioned. In his prophecy about the pyramids, he added that they were built in 10,500 BC. That's 8,000 years before the accepted dates. But it's a date that's come up in a recent scientific investigation of the pyramids. When Robert Bauval observed the correlation between Orion's belt and the Giza pyramids, he made a further discovery. Due to the wobble in the Earth's axis, the position of the Orion constellation moves across the sky over a 26,000-year period. Its lowest point on the horizon was especially important to the ancient Egyptians. It signified the beginning of time, the moment when the god Osiris, symbolized by the Orion constellation, was born. When Bauval checked the date that the Orion constellation was at its lowest point on the horizon, he was astonished. It was 10,500 BC, the date Prophesied by Edgar Casey.
Later tonight, women warriors existed in Greek literature, but were they real? Our new findings say yes, and they've got the battle scars to prove it. Also, a never-before-seen look at Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, right here on the Discovery Channel.
Plan. Play. Work. Manage. Connect. Communicate. For whatever you want to do, there's a Palm handheld to help you do it better. Join us in the Palm community.
You're watching the Discovery Channel.
Tomorrow night, from the paranormal to the abnormal, Would You Believe It? Explores spirits, robbers, and the dead.
Okay, let's do one of your predictions. You first.
I predict you'll be on the menu.
Ooh, zinger. You got me. Come on.
Dow, 5,000. NASDAQ, 800.
Interesting. Wrong, but interesting. Get this. Dow, 25,000. NASDAQ, 8,000. Give or take $1,000.
Or 10.
You know the difference between you and me?
Yeah, common sense.
No, you're a pessimist. Nobody likes a pessimist.
Nobody likes a talking steak either.
No matter which way you think the market will go, Ameritrade can give you an edge with a fast trading site and a 10-second guarantee. Qualified market trades that take longer than 10 seconds to execute are commission-free. Limitations apply. Open a cash account with $1,000 and get 25 internet equity trades commission-free. Go to Ameritrade.com.
Hey, aren't you going to leave a tip?
Tipping is for cows.
The real story of who we are. The Real Eve. Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific. Only on the Discovery Channel.
This ordinary-looking bed is the key to a restful night's sleep. Even though it may look like an ordinary mattress, it's more comfortable than you could ever imagine. Introducing the Nautilus Sleep System. Nautilus uses variable support chambers designed to let you control the comfort on your side of the bed. Individual remote controls allow you to increase or decrease the firmness on your side of the bed, so you can have that feather soft feel and your spouse can get the extra firm support he or she has always wanted. Available features like a luxurious cashmere blend pillow top and our unique comfort layer make Nautilus the choice for a great night's sleep. It's time you feel the instant comfort of Nautilus with no money down and payments as low as $25 per month. Try Nautilus in your home. We guarantee the best sleep you've had in years. If you're not completely satisfied within 12 weeks, return it for a full refund of the purchase price. Call now for your free video and brochure. Discover instant comfort with the Nautilus Sleep System.
You're watching the Discovery Channel.
Up next, The Scorpion King Unveiled continues with Egypt's women pharaohs, and later, controversial clues help unlock history's monumental mysteries.
There are indications that the fascination with the pyramids may have deep psychological roots. Paris, France. In the heart of the city, a perfect glass pyramid graces the entrance to the Louvre Museum. The Louvre Pyramid has been caught up in controversy ever since it was completed in 1989. Critics condemned it as a strange and unsuitable choice. The pyramid, they said, is a foreign idea, born out of an ancient culture, now long gone. It had no place in the French and classical setting of the courtyard of Louis XIV's palace. The Louvre Pyramid was defended as a very practical solution, as the best way of providing a large central entrance with plenty of daylight. But there may have been more to the choice of a pyramid. It's clear from the record crowds now flocking to the Louvre that the pyramid itself has become part of the attraction.
what is very strange since this pyramid was placed here, you find people coming in, and they sit around, and they are lured by the symbol. The symbol has a potent effect, a potent subliminal effect on the human mind.
Studies of pyramid symbolism in history show that it is used over and over as a symbol of life's deeper mysteries.
Every now and again, we come across something which looks us in the eyes. We stand before it and we know there's mysteries about it. It demands that we ask questions. It demands that we seek answers. We look at them and we wonder whether somehow, if we understand these pyramids, we will also understand something greater about the divine undercurrent to terrestrial life.
So perhaps the power of pyramids is real, not as a channel of astral or underground energies, but because of their power to stir the soul. Maybe the architects who designed the pyramids knew this. Why else would they build such awesome structures if it wasn't to cast a spell on ancient Egyptians, to convince them of the pyramid's mysterious power to bring the pharaoh back to life? Whatever the answer, the irony is they did such a good job of it. People are still being drawn to the pyramids.
You are lured into entering a quest. You are lured into entering a system of learning, and ultimately, if you follow it to its ultimate conclusion, you will be initiated into the belief system that this pyramid represents. The priesthood has long gone, but the symbol is active. It is potent.
The pyramids are the most enduring monuments ever built. Whether the ancient priests meant to initiate future generations into their cult is impossible to tell. It is one of the many secrets of the pyramids they took with them to the grave.
Now that you know about the real Scorpion King, get the facts on women pharaohs and women warriors. New evidence about the roles of women during ancient times is rewriting history and replacing fiction with fact. And later on, an exclusive never-before-seen sneak peek at Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, in theaters this Friday. So stay tuned. Kelly Hu and Michael Clark Duncan continue to host The Scorpion King Unveiled, continuing next only on the Discovery Channel.
Welcome to The Scorpion King Unveiled. I'm Kelly Hu. In Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, I play a sorceress whose prophetic visions foretell the rise and fall of empires. Tonight, Michael Clark Duncan and I will be your hosts for 3 shows that unlock the secrets of real ancient empires. Plus, you'll get an exclusive sneak peek at never-before-seen footage from the new Universal film, The Scorpion King. So, sit back and enjoy. It all continues right now with Women Pharaohs.
If you were a woman in the ancient world, there was no better place to live than Egypt. From the ranks of the royals to the common citizens, women in ancient Egypt enjoyed more rights and powers than women living in Europe as late as the 20th century. They could own property, divorce their husbands, live on their own, and some even ruled as pharaohs. Women and the power they held may be the key to why Egypt becomes the world's first great civilization, predating even Greece and Rome. Dr. Zahi Hawass is one of Egypt's foremost archaeologists and author of Silent Images, Women in Pharaonic Egypt.
From the pre-dynastic period, the ancient Egyptian made balance between man and women. They described exactly the man's role in the society and women's role in the society. And therefore that balance made the stability in the nation. It gave justice They called it ma'at in ancient Egypt. And that ma'at, that justice between women and men, made this society and gave us this wonderful civilization that we talk about it all the time.
The greatness of ancient Egyptian civilization is built on this cosmic balance, or ma'at. It is at the heart of Egypt's mythical creation. The story is carved on the walls of the 3,000-year-old temple of Karnak. In the beginning, the world is a void. From the darkness emerges the golden sun god, Amun, and with him, his divine consort, Mut. Using her seductive powers, Mut arouses Amun. As the ancient texts say, she kindles his flame, and in his exquisite joy, the universe is created. But this universe is fragile and could suddenly fall back into chaos if Amun is not ritually stimulated to reenact creation. And so every day on Earth, a select cult of royal women enter the gates of the Karnak temple and in grand procession make their way through the sacred precincts to the holiest place in all of Egypt, the private sanctuary of Amun. Here, in total secrecy, these royal women reenact the creation story with the earthly manifestation of Amun. These women are called the gods' wives of Amun. Unlike hereditary positions, such as queen or princess, any woman of royalty could achieve the title of God's wife. They ruled from the ancient city of Thebes. Although today the city is in ruins, to the trained eye of Egyptologists like Emily Teeter, Thebes is the stage on which the most influential men and women vied for power. For at the height of Egyptian civilization, Thebes was the biggest, richest, and most sacred city in the ancient world.
But Thebes was most important as the center of the god Amun, who is thought to dwell here at the Temple of Karnak. For over 2,000 years, the political and economic power of Egypt stemmed here from the Karnak Temple under the authority of the god Amun.
From 2100 to 500 BCE, Amun's city of Thebes was the heart and soul of ancient Egypt. On the west bank of the Nile River is the Theban necropolis, the city of the dead. Discovered here in the Valley of Kings is the most celebrated archaeological find in history, the tomb of King Tut. On the east bank of the Nile is a series of temples, all dedicated to the worship of Amun. The Temple of Luxor, with its colossal statues to honor the god. Down a processional lined with sphinxes lies Karnak, home to Amun. Protecting Karnak are 9 entry gates, or pylons, one of which is the largest temple entrance in the world. The Karnak Temple is a city unto itself, nearly twice the area of Vatican City. Karnak contains the tallest obelisk in Egypt, and its hypostyle hall is the largest column building on Earth. All the riches and splendor of Thebes were amassed in the name of Amun. Those closest to the god controlled his great wealth and wielded his power. Pharaohs were close to Amun, but there was a cult of women even closer. Here, in an area of Karnak often overlooked, Emily Teeter is uncovering evidence of an even more intimate relationship. The gods' wives of Amun.
The close relationship between the god's wife and the god Amun is very vividly demonstrated by a series of freestanding chapels that the women built here within the sacred precinct of the god Amun. Not only are they in an extraordinary position within the holy sanctuaries, but the scenes on these chapels show the god's wife and the god in really intimate poses, which are extraordinary in Egyptian art.
Here, the god's wife intimately embraces Amun. The god presses himself against her, even placing his foot between her legs. Not only are the god's wives sexually intimate with Amun, at a second chapel, Teeter finds evidence that the god's wives are related to Amun through divine birth. Here, Amun gives life to the god's wife by touching her nose with an ankh, the Egyptian symbol for life. At the same time, he hands her 3 ankhs, entrusting her with his divine power over life. But beyond religious power, the gods' wives had tremendous political power. A testament to their earthly authority stands on the west bank of the Nile, just across from Karnak. Here is one of the most glorious temples in all of Egypt, built by a woman who used her relationship with Amun to achieve the ultimate goal, to rule all of Egypt. Beneath the sculpted stone faces of her colossal statues lies the real story of a god's wife who becomes Pharaoh. Her name is Hatshepsut. Hatshepsut's ascent from god's wife to king is fraught with politics and revenge. Hatshepsut inherits the title of god's wife from her grandmother, the first known god's wife in history. And she learns to wield power as daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and his principal wife. But when Hatshepsut is 14 years old, her father dies. Thutmose II, the son of Thutmose I, with a lesser wife, takes the throne. Thutmose II is not of pure royal blood, so he marries Hatshepsut, his half-sister, to legitimate his reign. He dies after ruling for 12 unexceptional years. Then his son from another wife is next in line to inherit the throne. Too young to rule alone, Thutmose III needs a co-regent. Hatshepsut, his stepmother, seizes the chance. Family connections create the opportunity for Hatshepsut to be co-ruler. But according to Dr. Gay Robbins, it's her position as God's wife that seals the deal.
God's wife was Hatshepsut's favorite title. The office of God's wife carried with it tremendous ritual and economic importance. The God's wife had to interact directly with the deity in the temple in a way which otherwise only the king would do. And so it's likely that she was able to use this position as a springboard to her ultimate assumption of the kingship.
Hatshepsut went so far to project the image of a good pharaoh to her people that she even wore the pharaonic beard and dressed like a man. and she fulfilled the destiny of pharaohs by building. While the early pharaohs constructed pyramids for their burial chambers, Hatshepsut is one of the first pharaohs to build her funerary temple in Thebes and the Valley of Kings. Hatshepsut's Deir el-Bahari would have been reached by an avenue lined with sphinxes, sacred fountains, and myrrh trees. Among ancient Egyptians, the temple was simply known as Djeser Djeseru, splendor of splendors. Today, the Egyptian and Polish archaeological mission is restoring the temple using many of the techniques the ancient Egyptians would have used to construct it. But to Polish Egyptologist Miroslav Barwick, the restoration reveals a startling twist in the biography of Hatshepsut.
The Deir el-Bahari temple is essentially a political and religious biography of Hatshepsut's life. It depicts her birth into the pharaonic dynasty, her co-regency with Thutmose III, and then her kingship. But what's interesting is that after her death, late into Thutmose III's reign, her official history was rewritten. Her representations were attacked, and officially, she doesn't exist as a king anymore.
Mysteriously, after Hatshepsut dies, Deir el-Bahari and her other monuments throughout Karnak are attacked. Her images, and even her royal name, are chiseled away. Some Egyptologists explain this defacement as an attempt by Thutmose III to exact revenge on the evil stepmother who purportedly stole his throne. But the discovery of a new Hatshepsut monument, with her name and image intact, is revealing a far different story.
In The Scorpion King, an eccentric inventor named Philos concocts a volatile substance we know as gunpowder.
That's my special magic powder.
Magic powder?
Yeah, magic powder. It's from a Chinese formula that I procured at great expense. If I get the recipe right, it'll move mountains, clear roadways in an instant, do great things, wonderful things, or terrible things.
Find out the real story behind gunpowder when The Scorpion King Unveiled continues.
This program is brought to you in part by The Scorpion King, starring The Rock. Opens April 19th.
Her visions revealed a great warrior who would claim the power of the Scorpion and defy an empire.
Will you stand alone before the fury of his armies?
Yes. On April 19th, the adventure begins. The Scorpion King. Rated PG-13. At theaters Friday.
So the bun cake was bad.
The bun cake was abysmal, but you're missing the point of the story. The entire staff has food poisoning, leaving packages to be shipped, deadlines to be met, and one sales manager to do it all.
Just one?
One.
You mean have the bun cake?
He had the Danish. Stay with me. He jumps on FedEx.com. He's shipping. He's tracking. Getting confirmations on his cell phone. His pagers, PDA.
He's got a PDA?
Everybody's got a PDA. Nevertheless, packages arrive. He triumphs over adversity.
I don't have PDA.
Check, please.
The Real Eve, Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific.
What keeps you going? Achieve New Balance.
This is a news break from Discovery.com.
For the first time, researchers have used 3D technology to view a 3,000-year-old mummy without removing its outer casting. The mummy is the remains of a priest who has been housed at the British Museum since 1899. Scientists mark the new discovery as an important means for investigating mummies.
For the latest science news, go to Discovery.com News.
This Discovery.com news break is brought to you in part by, for your next home decorating project, ask how, ask now, ask Sherwin-Williams.
Using the wrong waterproofer can cost you thousands. Don't be taken for a ride. Demand Thompson's Water Seal. It has the highest level of water protection. Guaranteed. Powerful original. New advanced Thompson's Water Seal.
Time is on your side now that you have News 14 Carolina. Get local news and weather on the ones, anytime, 24 hours a day. Now you can make the most of your time and still stay informed. No matter how busy your schedule, get your local news whenever you want. With News 14 Carolina, there's no waiting, no wasting time. Available only on Time Warner Cable Channel 14. News 14 Carolina is your news now.
And with satellite, you get all your favorite sports channels.
I already get all my favorite sports channels.
No. Local channels?
Yeah, and I don't have to pay extra.
You get to put this on your roof.
Come here, I want to show you something.
Whoa, nice picture. Rain and wind? No problems. And you don't even have to sign a contract. Not with Time Warner Digital Cable. I've been such a fool.
Digital cable from Time Warner, a whole new way to see things.
I love you, man.
Don't miss all new dramas, all new discoveries, all new wonders. Blue Planet. The epic continues. Sunday, May 5th, beginning at 7 Eastern and Pacific. Only on the Discovery Channel.
In The Scorpion King, the inventor Phylos uses the resources of the desert to make his magic powder explode.
It works! It works! It works! Come! My lady sorceress, you see, I worked it out. All I needed was salt. Peter's salt. It was here all the time. And this place is just full of it. By the way, do any of you happen to have any water?
Phylos got the formula right. To make gunpowder, you need saltpeter, sulfur, and carbon. But he didn't invent the stuff. It was in China about 1,000 years ago when these ingredients were first combined by a scientist whose identity remains a mystery. Now back to women pharaohs.
Today, a team of French and Egyptian archaeologists is restoring a small temple they call the Red Chapel. It is a monument that was disassembled before Thutmose III had a chance to deface and destroy it.
Over a period of almost 100 years, 350 blocks were discovered in the foundations of the third pylon of Karnak. And these 350 blocks have been reconstructed during the past 3 years. And the reconstruction of the Red Chapel of Hatshepsut is nearly finished.
In reassembling the Red Chapel, Larche and his team have discovered that the monument was started by Hatshepsut, but completed by her stepson. Many of the images commissioned by Hatshepsut celebrate her co-regency with Thutmose III. Her cartouche appears next to his, and they even stand side by side as they conduct religious rituals. Just after Hatshepsut's death, Thutmose III adds 2 rows to the top of the chapel, depicting his own coronation. Below, he leaves the images of Hatshepsut's coronation intact. If Thutmose III was waiting for Hatshepsut's death to exact revenge on his evil stepmother, then why does he complete the Red Chapel and leave her images and royal name untouched? Clearly, He attacks her name and images later in life. So what happens to change his heart? Near the end of his reign, Thutmose III fathers an heir to the throne named Amenhotep II. As Thutmose III approaches the last part of his life, Amenhotep II is still too young to rule alone. It appears he will need a co-regent. With the memory of Hatshepsut's glorious reign still fresh in the minds of Egyptians, Thutmose III fears that another woman might usurp the throne from his son. To ensure Amenhotep II's ascension, Thutmose III tries to eliminate Hatshepsut's accomplishments by erasing her from history.
Thutmose probably didn't want his successor to be encumbered by royal women in the same way as he'd been overshadowed by Hatshepsut. And therefore, he deliberately destroyed Hatshepsut's memory to prevent her becoming a role model for some of the current royal women.
As further assurance against a woman taking the throne, Thutmose III attacks the power base from which Hatshepsut launched her ascent to Pharaoh, the position of God's wife. By the time Amenhotep II becomes king, the title of God's wife is largely ceremonial and could not be used by women to achieve political power, at least for now. December 6th, 1912. Amarna, Egypt. While excavating the remains of an ancient sculptor's studio, workers unearth a spectacular find. It's the painted bust of Nefertiti. The image of Queen Nefertiti quickly becomes an icon of female beauty. But Nefertiti is more than just a pretty face. With her husband, the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten, she leads a religious revolution that replaces Amun and his pantheon of gods with just one god, the sun disk Aten. Nefertiti rides the wave of this religious revolution to elevate herself to the status of a god. She does it by resurrecting the power of the gods' wives. Today, in the temples of Karnak and Luxor, Egyptologists are finding evidence of Nefertiti's strategy on stones from destroyed temples. During Nefertiti and Akhenaten's 13-year reign, they built temples to Aten within the sacred precinct of Amun. This was the ultimate act of sacrilege against the old religion. So after their reign, all their temples were destroyed, and the building blocks were used as filler in the foundations of monuments built by the next rulers.
At the beginning of the Ramesside dynasty, Horemheb has dismantled all the construction of Akhenaten, and he has reused these smaller blocks in the foundations of 3 pylons. So far, 60,000 blocks were discovered, and we think that many more are still buried in different foundations.
By the eastern gate of Karnak, Egyptologists are combining old-fashioned field archaeology with computer imaging. They have determined that here, during the reign of Nefertiti, and Akhenaten once stood a giant entry into the temple of Karnak. So far, they have puzzled together nearly 100 scenes of ritual offering. To their surprise, the majority of the scenes show Nefertiti leading the sacred rituals. Traditionally, making offerings to the gods of incense, oils, wine, fruits, and grains can only be conducted by the pharaoh or God's wife. So this new evidence suggests that Nefertiti had at least as much power as Pharaoh. And although there is no position of God's wife in this new religion, Nefertiti conducts rituals for the god Aten that are similar to the rituals performed by the gods' wives for Amun. Nefertiti harnesses the religious tradition of the gods' wives to elevate herself from earthly queen to goddess. For over a decade, she is the most influential woman in the ancient world. Then, she vanishes. Some Egyptologists speculate that her religious enemies destroy her tomb, and her mummy is desecrated. Others suggest that her mummy is secreted away by supporters and buried in a place yet to be discovered. But today, Nefertiti survives as one of the world's most recognized women. And in her own time, she reestablishes the power of women. 60 years later, in 1290 BCE, a new woman will use the position of God's wife to gain authority. But this woman adds the element of seduction.
Later tonight, a sneak peek at the never-before-seen footage of Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, right here on the Discovery Channel.
You're watching the Discovery Channel.
On Now, The Scorpion King Unveiled continues with Egypt's women pharaohs. And up next, unlock the truth about the Sphinx and other monumental mysteries.
When something is made with great precision, it does more than withstand the test of time. It seems to triumph over it. Then, and only then, does it become a true collector's item. The certified pre-owned Acura. A lasting tribute to precision engineering.
You're watching Women Pharaohs. Up next, monumental mysteries as The Scorpion King Unveiled continues on the Discovery Channel.
3 weeks ago, a large retailer sees a rising diva on late-night TV wearing a pair of unusual two-tone boots. Sensing opportunity, the retailer connects with designers, suppliers, distributors, and 200,000 fashion-conscious customers. Weeks later, said retailer reports sales of 19,000 pairs of two-tone boots, not to mention 6,500 matching two-tone belts. SAP.
It was not my dream to realize this day. The day a father watched his daughter start at Juilliard. But I embraced that dream with unwavering attention and made it my own. Because that was the dream of my client. And that's what I do at Morgan Stanley. One client at a time.
The real story of who we are. The Real Eve. Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific. Only on the Discovery Channel.
I love you.
I lost tooth.
Yeah, I would like to order a small pizza, please.
I felt the baby move. I met someone else.
I think I'm gonna quit.
You're the only person I've told.
It's benign.
They
I
won.
just started to miss you.
I would like to marry your daughter.
All
words are created equal. The power to use them is our right as humans.
I'm frightened. I need your advice.
But do we really have freedom of speech when some words cost more than others just because it's a certain time of day? Or because they have to travel farther? It's wrong, and it's about to be over. Introducing The Neighborhood, a new nationwide local phone company. Finally, one place where all words are equal, whether you're speaking to someone next door or across the country.
He makes me laugh.
I forgot my lunch.
I got a raise, Ma.
It's time to take back a freedom we never should have been without. The Neighborhood. All words are equal again.
In The Scorpion King, I play a Nubian warrior bent on destroying the evil warlord Memnon. But in reality, Memnon was the name of a Nubian royal hero who fought against the Greeks in the Trojan War. Today we know of his exploits and of his death at the hands of Achilles from Homer's epic, the Iliad. Now back to women pharaohs.
Nefertari. The very sound of her name evokes beauty, splendor, and sensuality. She is the most desirable woman in the ancient world. Nefertari's story is one of sex, power, and intrigue. When she is barely a teenager, she catches the eye of a young co-regent named Ramses II, who will soon rule Egypt as Pharaoh Ramses the Great. Ramses will have all the power one man could want, but he lacks one thing: divine lineage. His forefathers were soldiers who became pharaohs using military might. Ramses wants to be a god, and the key to his desire is the god's wife. If Ramses can marry a god's wife of Amun, that would make him the earthly embodiment of Amun, thus becoming a god himself. But first, he has to resurrect the position of God's wife. But to become God's wife, Nefertari must stand out from Ramses' 20 other wives and 1,000 concubines. What is the secret of her seduction? With her erotic fashion sense, enticing perfume, and ravishing beauty, Nefertari is chosen by Ramses to be God's wife. She takes her power to newfound heights. During the 33rd year of their marriage, Ramses honors her in one of the world's most imposing temple complexes, Abu Simbel. Carved in the cliffs near Egypt's southern border with Sudan, the first temple facade contains 4 gigantic statues of a seated Ramses the Great. On the second temple are 6 colossal standing statues. Soaring nearly 30 feet high, they are among the largest in all of Egypt. In an act extremely rare in ancient Egypt, Ramses depicts Nefertari equal to him in stature. As God's wife and Pharaoh's wife, diplomat and lover, Nefertari stood equal to Pharaoh Ramses for 25 years of his reign. Then, at the age of 46, Nefertari falls ill and dies. Ramses would rule for another 42 years, but he would never forget his lifelong love. To mourn her passing, Ramses constructs Nefertari's House of Eternity, a lavish tomb in the Valley of Queens. The temple walls are ablaze with colorful hieroglyphs, earning the temple its modern nickname, Egypt's Sistine Chapel. It is considered the greatest tomb ever found in ancient Egypt. With it, Nefertari achieves the ultimate honor, immortality. But the glory that Nefertari and Ramses II bring to Egypt does not last. 100 years later, by the time of Ramses VI, Egypt is crippled by weak rulers and civil unrest. Warriors from Nubia invade, and for the first time in its history, roles are reversed, and Egypt is conquered by its southern colony. It is 1150 BCE, and a familiar power is about to re-emerge. The gods' wives of Amun, but this time they are black women from Nubia. Before the new black pharaohs can continue their conquest of northern Egypt, they must secure the southern city of Thebes. To do it, the Nubian kings cunningly resurrect the position of God's wife. They bestow the title upon their daughters with the hope of expanding their own power. But over time, the daughters transform their religious power into political power and usurp the rule of the pharaohs. At the Medinet Habu burial complex in Thebes, Egyptologists are now revealing the extent of power wielded by the gods' wives.
The most important of the gods' wives are buried here at Medinet Habu. These were very, very powerful women who represented both political and religious power. They ruled Egypt as kings. These women were from Nubia, from what is today Sudan, and under their rule, they reunified Egypt and ushered in a period of renaissance in arts and culture and politics that lasted for over 500 years.
But unlike God's wives of the past, God's wives from this period may have been celibate. Egyptologists point to the fact that the reigning God's wife passes on her title to an adopted daughter. Descriptions of the adoption ceremony survive. The God's wives and her attendants go to the temple of Amun with offerings. There her attendants tie amulets and
Good night's sleep.
the two-feathered crown of Egypt is placed on her head, and she is proclaimed God's wife, hand of God. With this ritual, the adopted daughter completes her transformation to God's wife.
In The Scorpion King, an assassin, Matthias, played by The Rock, visits the walled city of Gomorrah on the most important mission of his life. But first, he gets sidetracked by a team of young pickpockets. To recreate Gomorrah's bustling marketplace, the production designers didn't have to travel to the Middle East. They just went to a backlot at Universal and gave a facelift to the famous set from Stanley Kubrick's film Spartacus. Stay tuned to find out how ancient legends about women warriors are proving to be true. Next on The Scorpion King Unveiled.
To know who you really are, to know where you're really from, you need to know the real story of our species. Explore the amazing scientific research that can actually trace your DNA back to the single woman from whom we all descend. The real story of who we are. The Real Eve. Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific.
one knows the world of women better.
Lifetime Real Women, coming soon to digital cable from Time Warner. Every Tuesday on the Discovery Channel, forensic investigators locate clues invisible to the naked eye, where science pieces together the truth and a single thread can tie up the case. This week on The New Detectives, a man's body is found in a wooded area. Investigators focus on a police officer as the principal suspect. Can a single hair prove this cop is the killer? Find the link, solve the case. Watch The New Detectives, Tuesday at 9 on the Discovery Channel.
As the sorceress Cassandra, I possess the gift of prophecy, but I can also handle a sword. I fight alongside a whole tribe of women who specialize in the martial arts, and they're turning out to be more than just a Hollywood fantasy. Take a look at this.
In the new movie, The Scorpion King, Olympic gold medalist Sherry Howard plays Queen Isis, the leader of a cadre of women fighters who are a force to be reckoned with. But long before Isis and her gals stormed the screen, women warriors have been among the most captivating cultural icons. It all started 2.5 millennia ago, when writers like Herodotus spun far-fetched tales of female marauders called Amazons, who rode on horseback and terrorized the Greeks. Now archaeologists are discovering the truth behind these legends. On the steppes of southern Russia, just where Herodotus claimed the Amazons lived, a team has unearthed the graves of women outfitted for combat.
It's incredibly unusual finding. There's been very little ever written about it, except in the Greek literature, which is mythology for the majority of the people in the world. And this is a case where we really have found Amazon-type female warriors out in the steppe land with swords, daggers, iron arrowheads, bronze arrowheads, quivers, all of the accoutrements that belong to the male warrior.
At first, archaeologists surmised that weapons found in female graves were intended for the next world. But injuries like this arrowhead stuck in a shoulder bone suggest that these women were no strangers to battle.
These females are very important to us because they illustrate that we have a type of society, a strata of society that's not really ever been documented before. In this area, we have excavated about 100 burials that are complete. During one point of time, a group came in that were female warriors, and very much like Herodotus writes about, that lived in the North Black Sea area.
And the graves here lend credence to other ancient accounts of men in Amazon society taking on roles usually associated with women.
Soup, son? What? You've just arrived and you want to eat already? Well, I've been training Butch, and I don't want any back talk from you.
Within the kurgans that we've found female warriors, we've found male burials also, with very few artifacts and even with babies buried on their arm. It's almost a complete role reversal of what we normally think of in society today.
Experts still aren't sure how common such role reversals were.
Well, now, let's see that pretty little face.
But for Balthasar, gender bending is nothing more than a way to get past the guards.
Everybody know what to do?
You watch yourself, kid.
No need for concern, miss.
Oh, he's gonna pay for that.
Stay tuned later for a behind-the-scenes look at the knockdown, drag-out, sword-swinging action in The Scorpion King, coming to theaters Friday. Now back to Women Pharaohs.
One thing is certain. Under the rule of the gods' wives, Egypt reaches new heights, and Thebes becomes one of the greatest cities in the world. But by the middle of the 6th century BCE, while Thebes thrives under female rule, weak male pharaohs in the north are threatened by outside invaders. This time it is the Assyrians. The Assyrians overrun northern Egypt and eventually make their way south and surround the gates of Thebes.
After several unsuccessful attempts, the Assyrians finally entered Thebes. According to the historical records of the Assyrians, it was a tremendous sack of the city. They burned the huge wooden doors that stood in the temple entryways. They took away the gold statues that stood in the sanctuaries. And according to the Assyrian king, he made the Egyptians feel his weapons bitterly. The sack and devastation of Thebes was the end of the greatest city in the ancient world.
Thebes is reduced to a sand-swept ghost town. For nearly the next 500 years, the intruders ignore the privileged status of Egyptian women, and the power and legend of the gods' wives plunges into obscurity. Then, in 50 BCE, an 18-year-old girl inherits the throne and reasserts the power of Egyptian women. Her name is Cleopatra. Cleopatra is remembered more as a myth than a real woman. Generations have portrayed only one part of her story, that of a woman with an insatiable appetite for love and power. But a new dimension of her portrait is becoming clear. She was a capable ruler and brilliant stateswoman. Cleopatra resurrects the power of women, employing all the weapons of her predecessors: politics, religion, and seduction, to achieve supreme power over Egypt and almost the world.
What you are about to see is an exclusive preview from the motion picture, The Scorpion King. In a time of darkness, a tyrant controlled a sorcerer's power. Until one man came to free her.
I see your fate, Hollow King, and its time has come.
Take a breath.
He's attacking! Alone? The sun has fried his brain. Where is he?
On April 19th, Universal Pictures presents The Rock. Catch this. The Scorpion King.
You are watching the Discovery Channel.
Coming up next, The Scorpion King Unveiled continues with monumental mysteries, and later, Wild Discovery explores the similarities between humans and apes. Plan. Play. Work. Manage. Connect. Communicate. For whatever you want to do, there's a Palm handheld to help you do it better. Join us in the Palm community.
Who thinks that? The Seekers. Who thinks that? The Seekers.
No. Cornelius Brothers and Sister Rose, 1972.
Want expert answers whenever you need them? Come to Office Depot, where our people listen, understand, and help.
How can I get organized?
A new generation of handhelds. It'd be nice if everything was like that. Office Depot. What you need to know.
You're watching the Discovery Channel.
Tomorrow night, from the paranormal to the abnormal, Would You Believe It? Explores spirits, robbers, and the dead.
I love you.
I lost tooth.
I would like to order a small pizza, please.
I felt a baby move. I met someone else.
I think I'm gonna quit.
You're the only person I've told. It's benign.
They won.
I just started to miss you.
I would like to marry your daughter.
All words are created equal. The power to use them is our right as humans.
I'm frightened.
I need your advice.
But do we really have freedom of speech when some words cost more than others just because it's a certain time of day? Or because they have to travel farther? It's wrong, and it's about to be over. Introducing The Neighborhood, a new nationwide local phone company. Finally, one place where all words are equal, whether you're speaking to someone next door or across the country.
He makes me laugh.
I forgot my lunch.
I got a raise, Ma.
It's time to take back a freedom we never should have been without. The Neighborhood. All words are equal again.
The Real Eve. Sunday at 9 Eastern and Pacific.
Your pet's exact same heartworm and flea medications delivered to your door for less than you're paying now. 1-888-PET-MEDS. We deliver savings and convenience on HeartGuard, Advantage, Frontline, and all other pet medications. Call to order now or order online.
I was a cowboy in Colorado.
I was one of my favorite people in Colorado.
I was actually able to hear the sun set.
I was a cucumber-eyed, mud-encrusted goddess in Colorado.
I was a rebel.
I was incognito.
I was irresponsible.
In Colorado.
Only in Colorado. The vacation possibilities are endless in Colorado. Call today for a free Colorado vacation guide. Later tonight, from hand-to-hand fight scenes to working with dangerous weaponry, we'll give you the inside scoop behind the risky task of doing your own stunts. As the Scorpion King Unveiled continues, right here on the Discovery Channel.
Though revered as a god by her people, in 52 BCE, when the Roman war machine threatens to invade, Cleopatra uses the earthly power of seduction to save Egypt. She bears the son of the great Julius Caesar, and if it were not for his assassination by the Roman Senate, she would have ruled the world by his side. When the Romans send their general Mark Antony to subdue her, Cleopatra captures his heart with her amorous charms and visions of world conquest. Through this romantic and political alliance, she restores Egypt to its former glory. But in 30 BCE, the Romans invade Egypt and defeat Antony and Cleopatra. Unwilling to submit to imperial rule, she commits suicide. According to the Greco-Roman historian Plutarch, she dies from the bite of an asp. But many modern scholars believe that Cleopatra experimented with poisons and would have known that the venom of a cobra, the very serpent that adorns the crest of the pharaoh's crown, was more deadly and a less painful way to die. With the death of Cleopatra, a 3,700-year epic of Egyptian history comes to an end. The pharaohs are dethroned. The temples of old lay in eerie silence, and women are denied their power. It will take the world nearly 2,000 years before women gain the kinds of rights that all women had in ancient Egypt.
If we look today at the position of women in ancient Egypt, we'll find they had more rights than any woman in any place. I think today, women today in every country should take this as a model for making a better future.
Today, as women of all nations struggle to balance male and female power, perhaps perhaps they can look for inspiration from the women who ruled ancient Egypt.
Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, takes place in Gomorrah of Sodom and Gomorrah. But did such a place really exist? Monumental Mysteries takes a look at the new controversial ideas that are disputing ancient and biblical history. Plus, you've seen the battles and stunts from the movie. Now find out how they did it. From falling out of windows to hand-to-hand fight scenes, Kelly Hu and Michael Clark Duncan continue to host The Scorpion King, Unveiled. Continuing next on the Discovery Channel.
Welcome to The Scorpion King Unveiled. I'm Kelly Hu. In Universal's new movie, The Scorpion King, I play a sorceress whose prophetic visions foretell the rise and fall of empires. Tonight, Michael Clark Duncan and I will be your hosts for 3 shows that unlock the secrets of real ancient empires. It all continues right now with